Hello everyone, it's Becky here. So in this video today, I'm going to show you my full process composing this art journal page. I will show you my techniques of how to sketch really fast with ink pen and watercolors. And from real life observation, not from photographs. Okay, so the first thing that I put on this art journal spread is this creme bread bun. Let's see how I sketched it. So now I'm drawing with my waterproof ink pen and kind of visualizing the size and placement of this bread pack. So now I'm just drawing the very basic outline of this bread bun pack. It's roughly a square shape, but a little bit distorted on all sides. Now I'm just drawing the wrinkles on the top and bottom, like most of the plastic packages, and just drawing the label, an oval shape in the middle, and some more label details. Now I'm drawing the bread bun seen through the other half of the package and adding a little more little details on the package, like the gram of the bread and other little interesting details. And now just writing down the name of the product, specialty bread, creme bread bun. And this is the Chinese character. And just drawing the stripes, which is also a little bit distorted because the package is not flat. And drawing the table of nutrients. And just adding the detail on top of the bread bun and a little bit fold on the other side. That's it for the drawing. Now I'm ready to paint watercolors. So as always, I'm wetting the area with clear water by squeezing my water brush and starting with the lightest color, lemon yellow mixed with medium yellow. And same for the bread bun, so they all have very similar colors. Nice warm yellow and pretty watery. The first layer, I always like to keep it light and watery. Okay, and second layer, wet on wet, mix of burnt sienna with orange for the bread bun. Painting very loosely and not covering every single space from the first layer. And orange for these stripes. It's a really prominent part of this package. Just make it nice and strong, less water and more paint pigment now for the second layer. Mixing in more burnt sienna, wet on wet. Okay, now I'm ready to paint the transparent part of the plastic package. So it's a mix of ultramarine blue and purple to get this grayish color here and there, and not covering those little parts, which is the bright spots of the plastic. And now just adding another layer for this colorful part of the package. A little bit gray, because a plastic package is not flat, so a lot of parts have a bit of shade around the edge. Underneath the bun, there's shadow there, up there. A lot of observation skills, and these shadows are really helping the bread bun to stand out even better. It's mostly covered by the package. And painting the label detail there with magenta red. A little bit shadow on this side. Just a little bit. I'm gonna keep the yellow stripes nice and fresh. But still some shadows are needed to show the 3-dimension. And just slowly and very carefully adding a bit more shade for the package here and there as I observe. Every brush stroke right now, it doesn't have to be very clearly done. Just a tiny bit here and there. to make each part that needs to be stronger. Especially the shadows around the bread bun, because I want the bread bun to stand out even better. The shadows have to be dark and strong. Okay, now I think I'm ready to paint the shadow. Just painting a really watery layer of reflective yellow from the bread and package, and then a watery mix of ultramarine blue and purple over the first layer, very loosely, because plastic package shadows are very loose. I just love seeing the sunset skies outside my windows, and the clouds today is giving so much positive energy, and I'm going to sketch this view. Not really again, because every time I sketch it, the experience is different. And I'm planning to include a large area of sky this time. So I already visualized the placement of the trees and the houses down there. So now I'm trying to draw these houses smaller and lower on the composition, and leaving a large area for the sky. So when drawing and painting a landscape, it's really important to plan ahead, to think about how big we want each area to be, because when we're looking at reality, we have a 360-degree view of the sceneries. So it's really up to us to decide what to include in our picture. Okay, so I'm gonna paint watercolors right now and finish the drawing part later, because the sky colors are fading away pretty fast. So here I'm wetting the sky area with clear water by squeezing my water brush. And again, always the brightest color, the warm colors on first. Yellow orange. And some more orange yellow down here around the horizon, and turquoise blue, cerulean blue, nice and loose. As you can see, I'm not stirring too much because I want the colors to stay fresh. Too much stirring is gonna cause muddiness. So now I'm doing wet on wet, a stronger layer of orange with less water and more paint pigment. Around the horizon is the ultramarine blue colored cloud that I see, cerulean blue for the mountain in the distance. And just let the layers of colors blend together without over stirring. And now wet on wet, mix of ultramarine blue and purple for the dark areas of the cloud. Again, just let the blooming go. It's beautiful. We don't have to stir it. So one of the charming things about watercolors is the blooming, nice and natural. It gives a really nice, relaxing effect. And now I'm putting on some magenta red, very thin lines. As you can see, I'm switching to my medium tip water brush, the Sakura brush. The clouds near the horizon are thinner and more delicate compared to the ones on top. This is the idea of aerial perspective in nature. And some more dark little pieces of clouds in the middle of the sky over the cerulean blue. Here and there, just using dotting brushstrokes. And keep adding these little floating clouds in the middle of the sky. So at this stage, it's pretty important to be aware of the wetness of the paper. If it's too wet, the clouds is gonna be completely blending with the previous layer. So right now, the cerulean blue part of the sky was actually dried a little bit, but not completely dried. And same as this cloud on top. So sometimes when we're doing wet on wet, we need to allow the layer to dry a little bit more. Okay, and I think that's it for the sky. I'm not going to overwork on it. I think I captured the essence, and now I'm going back to drawing with my ink pen, adding further details for the houses on the other side of the street, the fence and the geometric shapes that I see that made up the structure of the house. Window frames, coloring in the windows with solid black just gives more density to the house. Drawing this tree here and the street light. So because I've been sketching this view so many times over the years, I'm very familiar with the structures. So basically I'm only seeing the major shapes and just keep connecting one shape after another and not adding way too much unnecessary details. So even with very few lines, we can convince the viewers that they're looking at houses. And also, same idea with cars. It's just a pretty basic round or squarish outline with two wheels on the bottom. And now I'm just adding these little bushes in front of that house. And here's another window behind. Another window there, the front door. And the street line. Alright, I'm just adding a light pole over there. And another tree behind, and then another tree there that I forgot to add. Okay, and that's it for the drawing part. I'm gonna go back to my watercolors again. So I just wetted the tree area there with clear water and just adding orange and mix of yellow with a little bit of reading green to suggest the sunshine shining on these trees, and using leftover gray for the street. And using leftover yellow ochre to paint the house. And burnt sienna mixed with a little bit ultramarine blue for the rooftops. Leftover green, viridian green, mixed with a little bit yellow ochre. Wet on wet, these trees, making sure not covering the first layer because I want the first layer of sunshine green to show through, just to make this tree look more dynamic. Paint the trees behind, the tips, and add another layer for this tree, leaving the left-hand side bright to show the sunshine, just to give it more dimension. Add a bit of shadow for the houses here and there using leftover gray. Paint this tree here. And now just adding some final polish, some dark shade colors for the trees here and there. And using pretty small brush strokes, make sure I'm not over adding the shade color. And preserve the bright sides. It's very important. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so here's the look of my art journal spread so far. So I don't really plan what to sketch next. Let's see what I'm gonna do the next day. Okay, so the next day I had a meeting online with my friend, and after that I'm having a red bean bun with a cup of coffee for snacks. Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing the bun after a few bites. The upper part is like a semicircle. And this part takes a little bit observation skills, seeing lines going in and out with some points. Okay, and now it's time to give some dimension to the biting part by drawing these upper lines. I'm drawing the red bean filling there. Just keep observing the shapes and trust what you see. And now I'm drawing the black sesames and the wrinkles on top of the bun. Drawing really fast, not worry about capturing every single seed that's on there. And now I'm just drawing the coffee cup. It's a cylinder shape, the handle, and the rim. It's pretty important to give 3 dimension to the cup. And the rim for the handle too. And now just a fun part, drawing these bunnykins on the body of the cup. Okay, and that's it for the drawing part. Now I'm ready to paint watercolors again. So when painting watercolors, like painting almost any subject matter, it's always a good idea to wet the areas first with clear water. And for almost every subject matter, it's good to paint the warm colors first. So as you can see, I'm adding a mix of medium yellow with orange for the bread bun and the cup and the coffee. Very watery, very lightly. The first layer should be like this. Just make it nice and light. Second layer, wet on wet, mix of medium yellow with a little bit orange, just to give more shine and a little bit, 3-dimension to the bun. Third layer, wet on wet, mixing in a little bit burnt sienna into the orange for the bread bun, and using pretty much the same color for the coffee, and leaving that bright spot in the middle to show the shine of the drink. Mixing in a little bit red into burnt sienna to paint the red bean filling. Mixing in a little bit ultramarine blue to give shade for the coffee. And using the same color for the left hand side of the bun because the lighting comes from the right hand side. Now just relax and paint these bunny figures. Okay, and painting these little things takes a bit of patience because I have to switch color back and forth with very small brush strokes. But it's fun. Okay, now just adding the shadow for the left hand side of the mug and for the inside too. The daylight comes from the right hand side, so the left hand side of the bun and the cup is in shade. So being aware of the lighting when we're sketching objects is very important. So the shadows are landing on the left hand side. The lighting comes from the right hand side. So using a leftover color, ultramarine blue with purple, and darker around the edges, around the boundary line there. And that's it. That's the look of my art journal spread so far. I have 3 spaces here to fill. Okay, so here is our Christmas tree in the dining room. And today I'm gonna sketch some of these cute little things on our Christmas tree. Just a close-up of the cardinal bird here. And the cat. Okay, and I'm gonna sketch the little cat over here, right there, and the cardinal bird over here. Let's go. Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing the head of the cat first. So I already visualized the size of the cat first before I draw, so make sure I'm not drawing way too big. And just connecting the back and the tail and the back legs, the belly and the front leg. And drawing the string coming through the middle. And now I'm just using these repeating kind of lines to draw the shape of the needles of this fake evergreen tree. And now just adding the face and the boots and the little patterns on the cat's outfit. Really cute. And keep adding some more evergreen needles around the cat, just to make sure it is hanging on a Christmas tree. Just draw as many as I can. I'm not trying to draw every single twig that's around it. That's it for the drawing, and now I'm ready to paint. Okay, so now I think I'm gonna add the shade color using ultramarine blue mixed with a little bit purple to paint the shade color on the ceramic cat and leaving some spots to show the highlights. Okay, and now I'm just wetting the background area with clear water by squeezing my water brush and just put on some warm yellow, like lemon yellow mixed with yellow ochre or medium yellow, because I want to give like a bright and cheerful feeling surrounding the cat. Okay, and just let it dry a little bit. While waiting for that to dry, I'm mixing the evergreen tree color with viridian green, mixing with a little bit burnt sienna, and just paint very loosely. I'm not really painting inside the lines of these evergreen needles. Just painting it loosely, just to make sure this little sketch looks really lively. And just let the blooming go. So one choice that when we're using watercolors is that we can choose to paint outside the outlines. Because I think there's no need to follow the rule of a coloring book. Painting this way, it just really loosens up and this makes the viewers very relaxing to look at your painting. I think it also gives a nice smooth flow. Okay, so now I'm gonna paint the bright colors of the ceramic cat. Just grabbing some medium yellow. So as you can see, now the yellow is a bit shaded because watercolors is transparent. The gray color underneath is giving this yellow a little bit of shade. And it's also important to know that the gray underneath this yellow is completely dried before we put the yellow on, otherwise it's gonna get really muddy. So before, when I was painting the green part, this gray part of the cat was drying, so now it's safe to put these bright colors on top. These little oranges on the cat's outfit. Okay, so now I'm going to add another layer of shade around the cat on the left hand side of the cat's body and the face, because the lighting comes from the right hand side. So now the cat's face suddenly has a 3-dimension of a sphere, not flat anymore. Keep adding some final colors here and there. The bright red. The red is really nice contrasting color with green. Red and green are complementary colors. Painting the nose. Last bit of shade here. Nice and soft. And that's it for the cat. And now I'm going to draw the cardinal. Again, starting with the left hand side of the body, the nice round belly on the right hand side. And now starting to draw these evergreen needles around it, drawing as many as I can, not everything. And the log. So when drawing details like tree branches and leaves like this, don't get overwhelmed, just relax. We're just using reality as a reference and no one's gonna check how accurate that we draw. We just wanna draw very symbolically to convince the viewers of what they see. So usually with very few lines, it can be very convincing and there's no need to get into super details. Okay, now I'm ready to paint again. So just wetting this area with clear water. I want this little sketch to have a nice round frame, like an illustration in a book. Again, with medium and lemon yellow for the background. Wet on wet, viridian green mixed with a little bit burnt sienna for the tree needles. Again, very loosely. Just let it bloom softly with the yellow. And to show the needles a little bit further, I'm using paint brush strokes instead of using drawing. And this way, the fuzziness and the crisp outline in the foreground is giving a more sense of depth. Okay, now I'm ready to paint the cardinal bird. Just grabbing some red. Oops, a little bit dirty now, but that's okay. It's a shade area anyway, so some bright red. And just paint around and leave the belly part, upper part shiny white because that's where the lighting comes from. The right hand side, giving a little bit of a shade by mixing in a little bit ultramarine blue. Very loosely and painting in a very flexible way. Just painting the log with medium yellow. Okay, and now just doing the final polish, adding a bit more shade on the left hand side of the bird. And now I'm mixing in a darker tone of green by mixing ultramarine blue and burnt sienna into viridian green. Because this evergreen tree, most of the part is pretty dark. And using the same color for the cardinal bird on the left hand side. Okay, so here's the look of my art journal spread. It's almost done. I just have a teeny tiny space down there to fill. And I have these chocolate raisins. They're nice and shiny. I'm going to sketch them. So these are like irregular oval shapes. And in the middle, I'm using broken lines. They're very much like coffee beans. Just using these loose lines in the middle to give the texture and the feel. Writing down a little note what they are. They're chocolate raisins, not coffee beans. Okay, so now I think I'm gonna just paint a layer or two. So I'm using burnt sienna mixed in with a tiny bit of ultramarine blue, so it's darker. As you can see, I'm leaving tiny spots, white, to show the shine of the chocolate. It's very important. Okay, second layer, I'm mixing more ultramarine blue into burnt sienna, so it's a super dark brown for the dark spots that I observed on the chocolates. And then just quickly painting these little shadows with some ultramarine blue mixed with green and a little bit burnt sienna. That's it. So that's the look of my finished art journal spread. So happy holidays, everyone. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my video, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. I try to update my channel 2 to 3 times a week. Thank you so much and have a great end of year with your loved ones. See you very soon next time.